Hello, my dear students. Welcome back to English Mastery Hub. I'm Logan, and I'm so happy to be with you today. I hope you're feeling great and ready to learn something new. Today, we have a very special topic. We're going to talk about one of the most inspiring leaders in history, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela's story is full of courage, wisdom, and kindness. He fought for freedom, justice, and equality. Have you ever thought about how one person can change the world? Mandela showed us that it's possible. Even when things were hard, he never gave up. His life teaches us many valuable lessons, especially when facing difficulties. Sometimes we feel like giving up, like when learning English seems tough. But Mandela's story reminds us that we can overcome challenges if we keep going. His belief in fairness and fighting for what's right is a powerful message for all of us. Nelson Mandela wasn't just a hero in South Africa. He became a symbol of hope and peace worldwide. His actions inspire us to stand up for justice and to work towards a better world for everyone. In today's lesson, we will learn about his life, his struggles, and his amazing achievements. We will also discover important lessons that we can use in our own lives. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to English Mastery Hub. This way, you won't miss any of our lessons that will help you become more confident and fluent in English. Are you ready to learn about Nelson Mandela? Let's get started. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in a small village in South Africa. His birth name was Rolihlahla Mandela. In his native language, Rolihlahla means troublemaker. He grew up in a traditional family. His father was a chief, and he was an important man in the village. Mandela's father taught him about leadership and justice. He told Mandela that a leader should listen to people and help them. When Mandela was a young boy, he liked to play outside with other children. He loved to run, jump, and climb trees. He also enjoyed listening to stories about his ancestors. These stories made him think about his future. He was a bright student. He was the first in his family to go to school. On his first day of school, his teacher gave him the name Nelson. He studied hard and did well in school. Later, he went to college and studied law. He wanted to become a lawyer because he wanted to help poor black people who were treated unfairly. At that time, South Africa had a system called apartheid. This system separated people based on their skin color. Apartheid was a set of unfair laws in South Africa. These laws made life very difficult for black people. They could not go to good schools, eat in the same restaurants as white people, live in nice neighborhoods, vote in elections, or have good jobs. Mandela saw how unfair this system was. He did not want people to live separately. He wanted equality for everyone. He did not stay silent. He started speaking out against apartheid. He joined a group called the African National Congress, ANC. This group wanted to end apartheid and bring freedom to all South Africans. At first, Mandela believed in peaceful protests. He thought people should march, speak, and protest without violence. But the government did not listen. Instead, they arrested people, hurt them, and used violence against them. Mandela realized that change would not be easy. He decided to fight back. He and his friends made plans to stop apartheid. In 1962, the government arrested Nelson Mandela. They called him a troublemaker and put him in prison. In 1964, he was sent to Robben Island, a prison in the middle of the ocean. His prison number was 46,664. Prison life was very hard. He had to work all day in the hot sun. He slept on a thin mat on the floor. He was only allowed one visitor every 6 months. He could not see his family often, but Mandela never gave up. He spent 27 years in prison, but he kept learning. He read books, wrote letters, and gave hope to his people. In 1990, after 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela was finally free. The government decided to end apartheid. When he left prison, people were cheering and crying. Everyone was happy to see him again. Mandela forgave the people who put him in prison. He said, "We must work together. We must build a new South Africa." In 1994, South Africa had its first free election. Black people could vote for the first time. Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. As president, Mandela worked to bring people together. He did not want revenge. He wanted peace. He made schools better for black children. He helped poor people find jobs. He made new laws to stop racism. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. Even after he left office, he continued to help people. He fought for human rights all over the world. Nelson Mandela died on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. People around the world honored him. His story inspired millions of people. His life teaches us many lessons. He showed us never to give up, fight for what is right, forgive others, and work for peace. No matter where you come from, you can make a difference. You can be brave, just like Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela worked hard to bring freedom to South Africa. He saw that apartheid was unfair, and he wanted to change it. He believed that all people should have the same rights, no matter their skin color. Because of this, he joined a group called the African National Congress, ANC. The ANC was an organization that wanted to end apartheid and give freedom to black people in South Africa. They believed that all people should live together in peace and have the same rights. At first, Mandela and the ANC used peaceful ways to fight against apartheid. They organized protests, marches, and speeches. They wanted to show the world that apartheid was wrong. Mandela believed in nonviolence, just like Mahatma Gandhi. He thought that change could happen without fighting. He wanted to talk to the government and find a peaceful solution. However, the South African government did not listen. Instead of changing the laws, they made them even stricter. Black people were not allowed to protest. If they did, they were arrested or even killed. The police used violence to stop the protests. Many people were sent to jail just for speaking against apartheid. The government wanted to keep white people in power, and they did not care about justice. Mandela saw that peaceful protests were not working. He realized that the government would never listen unless they felt pressure. He decided that it was time to take stronger action. He and the ANC started using different methods. They destroyed government buildings that supported apartheid, but they were careful not to hurt anyone. Mandela did not want violence against people. He only wanted to stop the unfair system. Because of this, the government saw Mandela as a threat. They did not want him to lead the people. In 1962, Nelson Mandela was arrested. He was put on trial, and the government accused him of planning against them. They said he was dangerous because he wanted to end apartheid. Mandela knew he might be sent to prison for a long time, but he was not afraid. He stood in court and gave a powerful speech. He said, I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. Nelson Mandela was sentenced to life in prison. He was sent to Robben Island, a prison in the middle of the ocean. This prison was a terrible place. The prisoners had to do hard labor every day. They broke rocks under the hot sun. They slept on thin mats on the cold floor. The food was not enough, and they were often hungry. Mandela was only allowed to see his family once every 6 months. His children grew up without him. His wife, Winnie Mandela, continued to fight for freedom, but she also suffered because of his imprisonment. The government wanted people to forget about Mandela, but they could not. Even in prison, Mandela remained strong. He never gave up. He continued to learn and read books. He encouraged other prisoners to stay hopeful. He believed that one day, apartheid would end. He became a leader in prison. Even the prison guards respected him. He taught other prisoners about freedom and justice. Outside the prison, the fight against apartheid continued. People around the world started learning about Mandela and his struggle. They saw that apartheid was wrong, and they wanted to help. Countries stopped doing business with South Africa. They refused to buy goods from South African companies. Famous people, leaders, and activists spoke about Mandela. They said he should be freed. The pressure on the South African government grew stronger every year. After 27 long years in prison, Mandela was finally released on February 11, 1990. When he walked out of prison, thousands of people were waiting to see him. They were cheering and celebrating. He smiled and raised his fist in the air. He was free, but his fight was not over. He knew he still had work to do. Mandela did not seek revenge. He did not want to punish white people. Instead, he wanted peace. He wanted to bring people together. He started talking to the government about ending apartheid. He worked with other leaders to create a new South Africa where everyone could live equally. In 1994, South Africa had its first democratic election. For the first time, black people were allowed to vote. Millions of people voted, and they chose Nelson Mandela as their first black president. It was a historic moment. The world watched as Mandela became the leader of a free South Africa. Mandela taught the world about forgiveness. He invited his former enemies to work with him. He showed that love and kindness were stronger than hate. He became a symbol of peace and hope. His journey was long and difficult, but he never gave up. His story inspires people to fight for justice and never lose hope, no matter how hard the struggle may be. After many years in prison, Nelson Mandela became a symbol of hope. People around the world started to learn about him. They saw that apartheid was wrong and unfair. Many countries stopped supporting South Africa's government. They refused to trade with them. Famous leaders, musicians, and activists spoke about Mandela. They asked for his freedom. Protests happened in many countries. People held signs that said, "Free Nelson Mandela." The South African government was under pressure. They saw that they could not continue apartheid forever. Many people in South Africa, including some white leaders, started to believe that change was necessary. They knew that if they did not change, their country would face bigger problems. Finally, in 1990, something historic happened. After 27 long years in prison, Nelson Mandela was released. The world watched as he walked out of the prison gates. Thousands of people were waiting outside. They cheered and sang. People were crying with happiness. It was a moment of great joy. Mandela did not walk out of prison with anger. He did not want revenge. Instead, he wanted peace. He wanted all South Africans, black and white, to work together. He believed that the only way to build a better future was through unity and forgiveness. Even after his release, Mandela knew that his work was not over. Apartheid had not ended yet. There was still a lot to do. He continued to talk to the government. He worked with leaders to create a new system. He wanted South Africa to become a country where all people had equal rights. In 1994, history was made. South Africa held its first democratic election. For the first time, black people were allowed to vote. Millions of people stood in long lines to cast their votes. Some waited for hours, but they did not mind. They knew this was a special day. They were voting for their future. When the votes were counted, Nelson Mandela won. He became the first black president of South Africa. It was an emotional moment. People celebrated across the country. They danced, sang, and waved flags. The world also celebrated. It was a victory for justice and equality. As president, Mandela faced many challenges. South Africa was still divided. There was anger and pain from the past. Some people feared that there would be revenge. But Mandela had a different vision. He wanted to bring people together. He did not want to punish anyone. Instead, he focused on healing the country. One of his most famous actions was creating the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This group allowed people to talk about the past. Victims of apartheid could share their stories. People who had done wrong could admit their mistakes. The goal was not to punish, but to bring understanding and forgiveness. Mandela also worked to improve the lives of black South Africans. Under apartheid, they had suffered for many years. They did not have good schools, jobs, or health care. Mandela wanted to change this. He introduced new policies to provide education and opportunities for everyone. One of the most powerful moments of Mandela's presidency happened in 1995 during the Rugby World Cup. Rugby was a sport loved by white South Africans, but black South Africans did not support it. Mandela saw this as a chance to unite the country. He encouraged everyone to support the national team, the Springboks. On the day of the final match, he wore the team's jersey. When South Africa won, the whole country cheered together. It was a moment of true unity. Mandela served as president for 5 years. In 1999, he stepped down, even though he was loved by many. He believed that no leader should stay in power for too long. He wanted to set an example for future leaders. He showed that leadership was about service, not personal gain. After leaving office, Mandela continued to work for peace. He spoke about human rights, education, and fighting poverty. He believed that every child should have access to a good education. He once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Even in his later years, Mandela remained a symbol of hope. People all over the world respected him. He won many awards, including the Nobel Peace Prize. He met leaders, celebrities, and ordinary people. Everyone admired his wisdom and kindness. Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5, 2013, at the age of 95. The world mourned his loss, but his legacy lives on. His story continues to inspire people everywhere. He showed that forgiveness is stronger than hate. He proved that one person can make a difference. Mandela's journey was not easy. He faced many struggles, but he never gave up. His life teaches us to stand for what is right, to be kind, and to believe in a better future. His dream of a united South Africa became a reality because he never lost hope. His message remains clear. We must always fight for justice, peace, and equality. Nelson Mandela's life is one of the most important and inspiring stories in history. He taught us many lessons about how to live with love, kindness, and courage. He showed that one person can make a big difference, even in a world that feels unfair or difficult. Through his actions, Mandela changed not only South Africa, but also the world. His message of hope and freedom touched people everywhere. He showed that no matter how hard life is, it is important to never give up on what is right. His life was full of challenges, but he always believed in justice. He believed in forgiveness and in the power of love to heal wounds. Nelson Mandela's work did not stop when he became president. He continued to speak out for the rights of others, and he worked hard to improve the lives of all South Africans, regardless of their race. He knew that true peace could only come if everyone was treated fairly. This is why he spent so much time helping to heal the country's deep divisions. He was not just a leader in politics, but a leader in the fight for peace and human rights. Mandela's work was so important that in 1993 he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. This prize is given to people who work hard to make the world a better place. Mandela received this honor for his efforts to bring peace to South Africa and to end the system of apartheid. It was a moment that showed the world that his actions mattered. It was also a reminder that peace is something worth fighting for. Even after he retired as president in 1999, Mandela did not stop helping people. He continued to travel the world, giving speeches and meeting with world leaders. He spoke about the importance of education, peace, and fighting poverty. He used his fame to help others. He wanted to make sure that people everywhere knew the importance of standing up for what is right, just like he had done during his life. Mandela also worked hard to fight HIV/AIDS. He knew that this disease was hurting many people in South Africa, and he wanted to do everything he could to help. After losing his son to AIDS in 2005, he became even more determined to fight for better health care and education about the disease. His efforts helped to raise awareness about HIV/AIDS around the world. He wanted people to know that they could make a difference in the fight against this disease. Throughout his life, Mandela remained focused on helping others. He believed that the best way to change the world was to make sure that everyone had the opportunity to live a better life. He wanted to see a world where people of all races, religions, and backgrounds could live together in peace. He knew that this would not happen easily, but he never lost hope. He believed that change was possible, even if it took time. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." This statement is one of his most famous quotes. It shows how much he valued education. He believed that learning could help solve many of the world's problems. Education, to him, was the key to creating a better world. When people are educated, they can make better decisions and help others. Mandela worked hard to make sure that every child in South Africa had the chance to go to school and learn. He knew that education could help people escape from poverty and build a brighter future. Mandela's legacy is much more than his work in South Africa. It is about the hope he gave to people everywhere. His story shows that no matter where you come from or what challenges you face, you can make a difference if you never give up. He believed that people have the power to create change, and he spent his whole life showing this to the world. Even though Nelson Mandela passed away on December 5th, 2013, his influence is still very strong. His life continues to inspire millions of people around the world. Schools, streets, and parks are named after him. People continue to share his story and learn from his example. His legacy reminds us all that we have the ability to create a better world. In South Africa, Mandela is remembered as the father of the nation. His image is everywhere. There are statues of him in many cities, and his words are still quoted by many people who want to change the world. But his message is not just for South Africa, it is for everyone. His life showed that no matter what your race, gender, or background is, you can achieve great things if you are determined. Mandela also showed us that kindness and forgiveness are stronger than hate. Even though he suffered greatly, he never sought revenge. He believed that forgiveness was the key to peace. His life was an example of how to heal old wounds and build a brighter future. He taught us that we can make peace even in the most difficult situations. Today, Nelson Mandela's legacy is alive in the hearts of people all over the world. His story reminds us to always stand up for what is right, to never give up, and to work hard for peace and justice. We can all make a difference, just like Mandela did. His life shows that no matter how small we may feel, we have the power to change the world if we stay true to our beliefs and keep working for a better future. So, when we think about Mandela, we remember not just his time as president or his fight against apartheid, but the love and hope he spread around the world. His life reminds us that education is the key to change, that peace is possible, and that everyone has the ability to make the world a better place. Nelson Mandela's message is still with us, and it will continue to inspire generations to come. So, my dear students, what can we learn from Nelson Mandela? We learn that we should always stand for justice and kindness. No matter how difficult things may seem, we must never stop fighting for what is right. Mandela taught us that the power of forgiveness can heal the deepest wounds. He showed us that when we forgive, we are not just helping others, but also freeing ourselves from anger and pain. And most importantly, we learn that never giving up can change the world. Mandela faced many struggles in his life, but he never lost hope. His story is a reminder that even when life is hard, we must keep going. If we stay strong and work towards our goals, we can make a difference, just like Mandela did. Thank you for joining today's lesson on English Mastery Hub. I hope you enjoyed learning about Nelson Mandela and his incredible journey. If you found this lesson helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future lessons. Keep practicing, stay confident, and remember, you are capable of achieving great things. I'll see you in the next video. You've got this.